Hello again everybody and welcome back to part 4 of our AMT Klingon K'tinga cruiser build. And I'm happy to say that our parts from JT Graphics came in, and I'll give you guys a close look at these. You can see we've got the nice clear forward section there, the bulb and the photo etch parts for the exhaust grills, and we have the nice bridge top, which it's kind of hard to see the detail on that right now because it's in clear, but it's really got a lot of detail on the top of the bridge, and it's much more correct to the way it looked on the motion picture compared to the basic AMT kit. And here you can see we've got these nice resin parts from Jeff at JT Graphics for the improved Shuttlebay detail and the improved manifolds there on the impulse deck. And we've got these nice little wing vent replacements that go on the rear. We're going to take you through on the build here and show you how all this gets modified and replaced. Here we've got the forward torpedo tube with the emitter. And then here we got our nice photo etch sheet from Elliot Brown. Thank you so much for sending that, Elliot. I appreciate it. I'm going to put it to good use. And you can see this gives us a really nice detail and makes the window lighting that we'll be doing on the front of the bulb there going to be much easier because the windows are basically all in place. We'll just leave that clear and paint the parts and lay this over the top, and we'll have nicely shaped windows. Here you can see the really nice stencils for the torpedo tube detail there at the front. The little window section there for the officer's lounge, and these are masks, actually stencils for painting on some of the markings that go on various spots on the model. So that's really nice set. And let me fire up the model here for you guys, and you'll see that I've made a couple of changes since the last video. I started looking at some of the screenshots a little closer, and you remember I had that little red light there on the front of this area here, and I noticed that you could see the light from the rear of the model too. So I took a closer look, and you can see that the neck detail on this is a little different. I wound up filing that that little hump right there down flat on the top. It just comes to a point on the stock kit, and it's actually supposed to have a flat spot on the top there on the studio model. So I flattened that out and repositioned that LED, and so now you can see it flashing from the front and the rear. And then here we've light blocked our wing lights from the inside. And then this is the neatest part that I did here. I found these really cool flickering LEDs, and I decided to add these in, and it gives a really cool effect of making the engines look like they're sort of pulsating, and I really like that. Like, you know, kind of like they're not at a constant rate, and they kind of change as you let them run. So I really think that's cool. So we're going to start off here by removing this material right here, which is the stock vent detail, which is incorrect for the model, and we're going to replace it with these parts from JT Graphics, which are screen accurate. So let's get started on that. We'll be right back and show you how we take care of that. We're going to break out the Dremel tool here and just basically grind that area away, and then we'll mount the new detail with a little bit of CA glue. So we'll be right back. Okay everybody, well I've been working here a little bit, and I've got one of these, the port side wing vent mounted on there, and you can see it's just like it shows on the instructions. So I'm going to switch over here to the one on the starboard side and basically show you how you work this in. It's pretty simple. You can see you've got this little bit of raised detail here, and so you're just going to take your Dremel tool, and what I'm using is a Dremel tool at fairly medium speed with the little sanding drum on there. We're just going to go ahead and take this down just a little bit. Doesn't take much. Okay, we got that leveled out. There's just a couple of high spots on there where the old vent detail is that you need to get rid of. And then right up here towards the impulse output panel here, there's a little spot you can't quite get to without touching that with the Dremel. So I'll just take my knife here and shave that down a little bit. And we're all set. What I've done off camera here is I've already sort of shaved this down as they recommend in the instructions. I made it a little bit thinner. And we're just going to put a little bit of CA glue, which is what JT Graphics recommends for these resin parts. And we'll just tack this on here, and we'll be all set. That's why you don't want to do all your puttying and everything yet until you get these installed, because that way you're going to have to shape things a little bit different, and you want to make sure everything lines up nicely. And this stuff grabs right away, and you can see how nicely that fits right into place there. And resin really sticks good with CA. So you can see we've got a nice, our detail looks just the same on both sides there. So that's a really nice little modification that makes the model look much more accurate too from the back. And it's designed, you want to keep it flush here with this top lip here, so that when you mount your top panel on this, we'll go ahead and test fit this real quick. It's not going to fit tight yet because I've got wires hanging out the sides and everything like that, but we'll just kind of lay it on here and see how it's lining up. And you can see how nicely that fits on there, nice and snug. And that's going to work out really nice, and that does really add some nice detail on the back part of the model. So I like that. Okay everybody, I'm back, and I've been working on the model a little bit more, and you can see I'm working on the Shuttlebay / impulse deck now, and working out my lighting on that. Now you can see these are the Resin Manifolds from JT Graphics, and there's a little spot of light on the very forward part of each manifold that needs to be added that we saw on the studio model. And a lot of people use fiber optics for that, but I'm not a really big fan of fiber optics if I can get away with not using it. There are a couple of reasons. Fiber optics doesn't tend to put out as nice and crisp of light as regular light sources do. And anytime you have to make any sharp bends or anything with fiber optics, you got to worry about that stuff snapping later on. It's just really brittle, and it tends to do that. And if that snaps inside your model or comes apart, you're not going to have any light coming through that anymore. So what I did here is I decided to use some of these small SMDs that I like to use lately. And I've cut a trench into this part here and glued the SMD in there from the back side. And basically you can see that it's facing forward here, so it'll emit light right out that nice little spot right there. We'll get a nice bright little pinpoint of light. And then on this one here, you can see I've got it all worked in where I've puttied back over the trench and filled it in. I'm getting ready to sand this down a little further and prime it and make sure it's all nice and smooth. And then I've modified the side of the Shuttlebay deck here so that these will fit. Now one thing I want to point out is with these JT Graphics manifolds, when you buy this kit, they come with the disruptor detail molded on the back side. And as you can see, when you buy this same part from JT Graphics, which is the redetailed Shuttlebay rear, which is a lot more accurate than the factory included kit part, it comes with the disruptors already in place here. So one of these has got to go. So I decided it would be easier to shave down the back of these with a file, and you've got to shorten them up considerably so that they'll fit. Let me test fit this on here. You can see I've cut this little slot in here to pass my wires through, but these sit on here and they're slightly tilted down in the front the way they're supposed to look. And you can see that you have to remove quite a bit of detail there so that it'll fit between the bulkhead there at the rear and this little detail that's molded on the front of the impulse engine intake that sticks out. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're working on that. Again, you could either cut this section off here in the back and use the whole manifold, or use the manifold here. Because there's all this detail that's molded on this, I decided I didn't want to cut that there, because trying to putty that and cover up that seam there where all that other stuff is, we don't want to get goop all over that and have a hard time cleaning that back up. Now what I've done on this part here is I've installed the rear bulkhead using some CA glue, which they recommend for bonding the resin part to the kit supplied plastic. Is I've completely filled these gaps in with CA glue here at the rear and at the front. So what that allows me to do is now when I spray this down on the inside with some light blocking, we won't have to worry about any light gaps or any seams being exposed that we have to come back and repair from the outside. So we can keep all of our outside looking nice and clean, and we don't have to come in there at the very end and try to squeeze putty in there and all these really tight, hard to get areas. So that's just something to think about, guys. Try to keep things a little bit easier for yourself when you're doing these builds, and just kind of think it through a little bit, and you'll kind of come to these same conclusions. We've done the same thing here all the way around this gap here. So when we light block this is all going to be nice and sealed from the inside. Now when we mount this on the top here, you can see that we're going to have some gaps. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to glue this to the top of this before we put the lid down. And then we're going to come on the back side of it and we're going to seal it all up the same way that we just talked about there with some glue and things, and possibly some canopy glue and some other things to seal that all up. We'll spray that down with our light blocker and we won't have to worry about any leaks coming through on the outside of this, which you can see if you do it that way it makes it a lot easier, because there's a lot of little areas that you have to try to get putty in here and then try to sand it and all that. So again, we'll make this a lot easier on ourselves, and that's going to come out really good. So okay guys, I'm going to come back here in a little bit. I'm going to keep working on this Shuttlebay. I'm going to get the manifolds all mounted. I'm going to get my other manifold here, the trenched area, puttied in and smoothed out. And then we're going to get everything glued together. And we're going to put our lighting in here at the rear, which will be just a couple of more SMDs. And put our tinted lens in here for our red detail, for our glowing red. And then we're going to get ready to mount it all down on the top. So we'll be right back with that, guys. See you in a couple seconds. Alright everybody, well here I am again, and you can see we've had some success here. I think Kapla is Klingon for success, could be wrong, but I think it looks really cool, guys. You can see that we've got our lighting going on underneath of the wing there, underneath of the manifold, shining out under the wing, and then the little light at the top, at the front of each manifold there that we use those SMDs for. And that worked really good. We trenched those in like we talked about, and we didn't have to use any fiber optics. And here you can see the lights at the rear. They came out really good too. Next to the disruptors, nice and bright. So everything worked out fantastic, guys, and I didn't have to put any putty on the outside of it all, so I kept everything nice and clean, and I'm really happy with it. Let me turn off the light here, and you can see, wow, isn't that cool? I really like that lighting on the wings, guys. That's going to look so cool when we get that all painted up and all the details on it. And you can see here on the side that we don't have any light leaks at all coming out of that, so that's just perfect. Really happy with that. So big step on this now, so we can wrap all this up now. I've still got to put one more strip of a red LED tape in the rear part that will light up the impulse grill. I decided to do that instead of using the ambient lighting, but I'm still going to keep it nice and dim like I talked about earlier. We don't want to have that overly bright at the front. But he's all nice and mounted in there and good to go. So alright guys, well that's going to wrap for this one. I'm really happy with how things are going. We're going to come back on the next video and show you the work on the forward section now. I'm going to mount the bulb and do all the work on that and install the lighting and electronics, and then we're going to use Elliott Brown's nice photo etch parts for our windows, and then we'll go from there and work our way up to the bridge and everything. So things are moving along really nice on this model, and then I'll start giving some updates probably after the next video on how the second build is coming. Again, we're going a lot more basic on that one, just some nice lighting and stuff, but it'll look good too. So, alright guys, well that's a wrap. Take care, happy modeling. We'll see you next time, everybody.